Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? All right, I'm back in the mothership. Today is Friday, July 8, 2022. Coming up, Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. President Joe Biden signs an executive order to protect women's reproductive rights since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, leaving abortion laws up to each state. But how effective will this order be? The June job report indicates the nation added more than 300,000 jobs despite high inflation and rumors of a recession. Oh, Fox News is pissed. I talked to the chair of the President Council of Economic Advisors, Dr. Cecilia Rouse. She'll break down exactly what these numbers mean to black folks. The show First Kill is topping the Netflix chart. I'll chat with Felicia D. Henderson, the showrunner and head writer of TV's first black family of Monster Hunters. Plus, our Essence recap, courtesy of Coca-Cola. Folks, you'll hear from Sherry Shepherd about her new show, her EP, John Murray. Also, Robin B. talks about getting your health straight. Also, Chef Kwame, they had a culinary competition. I participated in that. And got some other stuff I'm going to show you as well. We had a grand time in New Orleans. And we'll show you all of that in our special. Yo, it is time to bring the funk. I'm Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the biz, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now. Martin.
All right, folks, today President Joe Biden signed an executive order to protect abortion rights for Americans. 2 weeks ago, the Supreme Court ended a woman's constitutional right to make her decisions about her body. Biden's order calls for the Department of Health and Human Services to submit a status report and create an interagency committee on abortion. It also expands access to contraception, provides free legal representation for abortion providers and those seeking abortions, and has additional protections for reproductive health care data. Now, the president urged Americans to get out and vote to prevent their rights from being taken away.
It's about a deep, long-seating antipathy toward Roe and the broader right to privacy. As the justice wrote in their dissent, and I quote, "The majority has overruled Roe and Casey for one and only one reason, because it has always despised them, and now it has the votes to discard them," end of quote. So what we're witnessing wasn't a constitutional judgment. It was an exercise in raw political power. On the day the Dobbs decision came down, I immediately announced what I would do. But I also made it clear, based on the reasoning of the court, there is no constitutional right to choose. The only way to fulfill and restore that right for women in this country is by voting, by exercising the power at the ballot box. Let me explain. We need 2 additional pro-choice senators and a pro-choice House to codify Roe as federal law. Your vote can make that a reality. I know it's frustrating, and it made a lot of people very angry, but the truth is this, and it's not just me saying it, it's what the court said. When you read the decision the court has made clear, it will not protect the rights of women, period.
All right, folks, let's talk about this with our panel. Kelly Bethea, communications strategist, Michael Imhotep, host, the African History Network show, Matt Manning, civil rights attorney. Kelly, there are people who wanted President Biden to do more. Folks like Ellie Mistel has been saying that, look, he should provide, again, allow abortions on federal property. There are a number of different things that he could have done. Do you believe that this executive order is an effective one?
I won't know if it's effective until we actually see it in effect, but I agree with those who think that he could have done more. Executive orders wield a lot of power, and we saw that power in action through many presidencies, between Obamacare and Trump executive orders, and even some of Biden's executive orders after he got into office immediately, right? So to say that this was enough, I'm grateful that the administration is doing something, but it always feels like they are considering the other side of the political spectrum when they make decisions like this, when it has been made clear time and again that the other side of the political spectrum does not care. So I don't think it went far enough, but I'm glad that something got done. Maybe this is the start. I hope it is the start. But yeah, we'll see.
Matt, for folks to understand how Republicans, how frankly nutty they are, Check this out. Texas legislators threaten Sitley over abortion care travel costs. Here's a major law firm, a national law firm, significant presence in Texas. And these folks are saying, if you dare pay the travel cost for employees, we're going after you. I'm sorry, what the hell right do they have to tell a law firm what to do?
They don't have any right, and what they're trying to do is kind of add to that fear mongering we've already seen with the Texas law that essentially puts a bounty on anyone who, well, before Roe v. Wade was repealed, they put a bounty on basically anybody who was seeking abortion access here by empowering people to basically tell on their neighbors or anyone they had credible evidence was seeking an abortion to the tune of a $10,000 fine. So it doesn't surprise me. It's part and parcel with what we've seen the Republicans do. And we see that it's an all-out assault at this point. And really an all-out assault that is incongruent with what their messaging has been for the last many decades, that, freedom, don't tread on me, don't tread on my rights. Nonetheless, in this instance, if those rights are incongruent with what I tend to believe, then I think you shouldn't have the right to make decisions about your body, which is really kind of anathema to the idea of American rights in general. But beyond that, the general autonomy that we all have over our own bodies and should have by virtue of being human. So it doesn't surprise me that they're doing that. And I just wanted to say, as it relates to the executive order, I don't think it went far enough, but I'm sure that the Biden administration knew they were going to be embroiled in litigation if they went too far. So perhaps that's why they took the tack that they did. But I think that Eli Mistel's suggestions and others surely that have been proffered would be the right suggestion. I think he could have allowed it on federal land and or maybe taken some other routes to make sure that people have this necessary health care as an option.
Here's what I find to be laughable, Michael. Again, this is the letter from Texas, from the Texas Freedom Caucus. They actually said, to the extent that Sitley is facilitating abortions performed in violation of Article 4512.1, it is exposing itself and each of its partners to felony criminal prosecution and disbarment. The letter also details proposed legislation to be introduced in Texas that will impose additional civil and criminal sanctions on law firms that pay for abortions or abortion travel. The Freedom Caucus would like to impose felony criminal sanctions on anyone paying for an abortion, allow private citizens to sue over it, a la SB 8, and any lawyer who furnishes the means for procuring an abortion knowing the purpose intended will face disbarment. Now, here's what's pretty stupid about this, Michael. First of all, Texas law does not travel across state lines. Right. That's first.
Right.
You can't say, oh, if you did pay for it in Texas, but it happened elsewhere, then the law applies to you. No, it doesn't. You're only able to govern what happens in your state. But I need people watching and listening to understand that this is the extent that these Republicans are going to trying to go to threaten Americans for making their choices. That's what we're talking about here.
Yeah, Roland, this is so crazy because when it came to being able to not wear masks, they wanted freedom, okay? When it comes to Second Amendment rights, they want freedom. But when it comes to women having autonomy over their body, all of a sudden now they don't want freedom, okay? So this is what Biden is dealing with. The executive order was good. It came within 2 weeks of the ruling from the U.S. Supreme Court. I know that people say that there's more that can be done, things like this, but when it comes to doing abortions on federal property, okay, well, if that takes place within Texas, then you're still dealing with all these lawsuits and you're still dealing with this legal backlash because it took place in Texas. I know it's on federal property. So, there may be another portion possibly of an executive order coming. This is a good first step, but it has to be codified by Congress. It has to be codified by Congress, which is why it's important. It was important for him today to drive home the point again that you need at least 2 more Democratic senators, and not Democrats like Joe Manchin, but the right type of Democrats who will vote to codify Roe versus Wade. And I would say you need more than 2, because as you've talked about here on this show before, Roland, you have some Democratic senators in states that have Republican governors. If something happens to one of them, that Republican governor can replace them with a Republican senator and tilt the balance of the Senate. So this is high stakes grandmaster level chess that we're dealing with. So this is extremely important, but this is a good first step.
Melanie Campbell, Black Women's Roundtable, your assessment of this executive order signed by President Biden today, does it go far enough?
Oh, I think it's what he can do from the pulpit of the White House, from the executive branch. Truly, what we have to have is a legislative remedy that's going to be systemic. Can he do more? Yes, I think that they'll continue to push it. I think it's very important that he stated that it was important that folks also vote and try to do what they use the power of the vote, even in the midst of the challenges we face, of course, with this election cycle, because we won't be able to codify Roe v. Wade without Congress acting. And the Senate is up, the House is up, and as well as many states. And even as you try to figure out how to roll this back, there are so many governor's races and state legislative races that are also up this year. So I think it's really important. I think also what was important is that they were going to use the Department of Justice that would try to protect people who may end up being charged for driving across state lines. Some of those very nuanced things. The sisters that I work with and support, like Sister Song and others, really talk about the concern about the criminalization of women as they seek reproductive health care services when they're in states. So I think that's going to be really important as we work to fight the political battle. We also worry to make sure we protect folks from being over-criminalized.
What we're now, one of the things, Melanie, that Biden said is that Republicans greatly underestimate the power of women. He believes that this Supreme Court decision is going to be a boon for Democrats, and it is going to really hurt Republicans in November. Agree, disagree?
I think I partially agree. I think that there's nuances to that for Black women. There are other really critical issues that impact us, but generally, I think younger women along lines of age, when you're looking at women who are in their reproductive years, having that concern and waking up to it. Roland, one of the things that happened a lot when we were in New Orleans for Essence Festival weekend, the kinds of conversations we were having, there was a sense of urgency by younger women who were trying to figure out, now this is really happening, my rights are being taken away, just trying to figure out what to do and how can what is it that we can do to fight back. And so I think that, so I heard a lot of that over the course of the weekend, the issue around our rights and freedoms, whether we're talking about voting rights or reproductive rights. I think the connection to understand that all of our rights and freedoms are under attack, or in a situation where they're going to continue to erode rights and freedoms for all of us. And so I think that it will have a role. I think it was seismic. It was such a major shift in rolling back, just like we were out there in the streets a year ago and continue to fight, of course, around voting rights. I think the timing of it is on people's minds when people would normally be thinking about just going to the beach, quite frankly. They're worried about whether or not if something happens, I need to get an abortion, or I may be in a hospital, or I may have to have those kind of reproductive services to save my life or a family member's life. So it's out there in the ecosystem, and the folks that are showing up. The very first day, Deborah Scott with Georgia Stand Up, who we partnered with around Black Women's Roundtable. Within that hour of that decision, her young people who are interns for her for the summer said, we want to go out here and do something. So they were out there in front of the Georgia State House protesting. So when you think about the response, I think it will have an effect.
That really is the fundamental question, Kelly. You hear Biden talking about vote, vote, vote. We know 53% of white women voted for Donald Trump in 2016. that came out to support him again in 2020. And so, if that's the case, was Biden saying correct? Because the reality is the largest group of voters in America are white voters.
I still feel like Biden, in a way, is in this, USA Wonderland where everything is kind of sort of off balance right now, but it'll get better. Meanwhile, the rest of America is like, no, this is what it is right now. I won't have any faith until I see the votes come in. Like, I feel like I learned my lesson after Trump got elected, not to trust in polls, not to trust in much of any type of analysis thus far that says anything outside of, the nitty gritty being, white supremacy is ruling the white people right now. I don't know. Like, I wish that he would get on board with, just kind of not being as bipartisan as he is and just getting done what needs to be done. But like I said, we'll see.
Look, Matt, bottom line is this here. White women are going to vote like the way they did in 2016, 2020. Me personally, I don't all of a sudden see these white Republican women going, oh my goodness, this is going to be our most fundamental issue. I don't think so. Now, independent women, that could be the case. So the reality, what I keep saying is you're going to have to see Black and Latino and Asian turnout at a much higher rate. But when it comes to Latinas, you got to factor in the stronghold of the Catholic Church when it comes to their perspective on abortion.
I think that's correct, Roland, but I think what remains to be seen is the effect of all of the single issue voters who voted Republican for so long because they were so incensed or otherwise energized around abortion. I do wonder what the aggregate effect of that will be. But to your point, obviously we need more people voting, non-white people voting in mass to make sure that the correct things happen going forward. And one thing I wanted to add that I didn't mention before is I do think that Mr. Biden has a good opportunity to test the bounds of federalism here, because the real fallout of Roe v. Wade is it goes back to the states, right? And you have a patchwork of state policy. So I think one of the things that the federal government can do here is really push those bounds of federalism, because I think Michael alluded to the point earlier, if something were happening on federal land in the state of Texas might try to fight it, but I don't think that the state of Texas would have supremacy over that federal action. So I think that is one place that they can continue to build on not only these protections, but maybe affording the actual right to people despite it being taken away via this new ruling.
Michael.
Yeah, Roland, Biden got 81 million votes 2020. 61% of his votes came from white people. That was 49 million votes. 20% came from African Americans. That was 16.9 million votes. The intensity right now, and it's going to continue, I think, as we hear, just like there was a story today that MSNBC ran dealing with how one of the drugs that's used to treat cancer is also used to treat for women use it when they've had miscarriages, and how this can be also a drug that gets banned. This is the next step of this. It's not going to stop here, okay? So if you look out in the streets, people are not marching in the streets because of inflation. They're not marching in the streets because of high gas prices. But women are marching in the streets of different races, are marching in the streets because their constitutional right to safe abortions has been taken away. So I think this is different in some respects to 2020, because now you're actually dealing with the Supreme Court ruling and taking away a constitutional right they've had for 50 years, as opposed to in 2020 or 2016, they were saying it could happen. Okay, so I think I'm not saying all white women are going to vote for Biden. That's not what I'm saying. But I think the game has changed here, and this is an opportunity for Democrats and others who see this as wrong to galvanize the support and actually turn this into votes for the right type of Democratic candidate.
Melody, what do you make of all of this drama over Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh having to leave Morton's through the back of the restaurant because he was because of protesters. Folks aboard the right, they're really upset. I mean, this is the same person whose vote.
The same person that lied.
Well, he lied, but also this is the same person whose vote is forcing women to leave certain states to actually get an abortion. I mean, a 10-year-old girl in Ohio was raped, and she can't get one in Ohio. She has to literally go to another state. But just to show you again, how they operate today, in the White House briefing, Press Secretary Jean-Karine Pierre had to deal with Peter Doocy of Fox News, who was just, and again, this is their thing now. It's like, oh my God, like how dare you question these Supreme Court justices? Watch this.
Protesters to intimidate Supreme Court justices when they're out to eat, like Brett Kavanaugh, who had to sneak out of a steakhouse last night.
We have been pretty clear on this. The president has been very clear that we condemn any intimidation of judges in this specific question here. We have condemned that. We have signed. He has signed a piece of legislation making sure that they have the protection that they need.
But you never said don't go to their houses. So as long as they're peaceful, would you say don't go to a restaurant that a Supreme Court justice is at?
What I'm saying is we condemn any intimidation when it comes to judges. The president has talked about this, and we have put out statements in his name and many times.
If protesters know that a justice is out to eat at a restaurant, that they can go and protest as long as they are what you consider peaceful. That's okay.
Well, we have said that we want to see peaceful protests. That's what we have said. We want to see the protests be peaceful, but when it comes to intimidation, that is something that we have condemned.
So where's the line? If these protesters can go to a justice's house and they can go to a restaurant, where is it that you don't think it's appropriate for a group of protesters to go?
I just laid out, you asked me about intimidation. We condemn intimidation. We condemn any violence, and we've been very clear. It is a clear definition of what violence is or what intimidation is. Peaceful protest, people should be allowed to be able to do that.
In a restaurant?
If it's outside of a restaurant, if it's peaceful, for sure.
Really?
Peaceful protest. Your first question to me was intimidation.
So these justices, because protesters do not agree with an opinion that they signed on to, have no right to privacy, is what you're saying.
But Peter, this is people have the right. This is what a democracy is. People have the right.
To privacy?
Of course, people have a right to privacy, but people also have a right to be able to protest peacefully.
Is that
peacefully?
safe?
It's the intimidation and the violence that we condemn.
Is that safe?
Peter,
isn't that creating a potential really bad situation when there are people, even if they're being peaceful at the time, they're angry, and that's why they would be there, right?
Peter, we have condemned any intimidation and violence. I said peaceful protest should be allowed. We do condemn intimidation, and we condemn any violence at any whatever type of violence. We've been very clear on that.
So President Biden
and the president has signed in Congress to make sure that the judges have the protection that they need. This administration has provided U.S. Marshals through the DOJ to make sure that these judges are protected. So we have shown how we want to make sure that intimidation and violence is not the way to go. It is not the way to have a political discourse. I'm done here, Peter.
That's the most important part. I'm done here, Peter. Okay, so let me just sort of explain to one of the dumbest members of the White House press corps, whose father is equally dumb, Steve Doocy at Fox News. Okay, Peter, let me just help you. Okay, so we know y'all love the Second Amendment. I mean, we just know y'all just adore the Second. But it's second. There's one that's right before it. It's called the First. So, Peter, let me help you out. 2 follows 1. 3 follows 2. 4 follows 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? Which means that if it's the first, that means the slave-owning, rich, sexist white men who wrote the Constitution kind of thought it was a little important to make it the first. Okay. So when you say, do they have a right to privacy? Peter, let me help you out. A restaurant is public. Now, I know that might be a little hard for you, so I'm going to say it slower so it might seep in to the empty space between your 2 ears. Okay? A restaurant, a public restaurant is public. It's not a club where you have to be a member to go in. So, yeah, someone can actually protest outside of a restaurant. If they choose to go into the restaurant, well, then management has the right to remove them from the premises. Is that correct, Matt? Just want to make sure the law was straight.
That's right.
Okay. All right. So they can be removed. So if somebody wants to protest, that thing called the First Amendment kind of helps them, not a little bit, a lot, right, Matt?
That's right.
Okay. So this notion of a right to privacy, it doesn't exist when you're at a public restaurant. Is that correct, Matt?
That's correct.
So I get all of these right-wing Fox News people who are really up in arms and upset because people are protesting outside the homes of Supreme Court justices. But last I checked, Melanie, there are 3 branches of government. There is the executive branch, and that's the president, White House. There is Congress, House, Senate, and then there is the judicial. They are, according to that document, Melanie, signed by the racist, sexist, slave-owning white men, there are 3 co-equal branches of government. We're on the same page?
Correct.
Okay, now,
Okay.
there are three, so they're co-equal, which means that there are people who literally, and we're 2 blocks away, they can actually stand in front of Biden's White House.
That's right.
And protest, and he can actually hear them from the street. Senator Chuck Schumer has said, folk protest outside of my house constantly. So why all of a sudden is there this belief that somehow the Supreme Court justices are so separate that you can't protest in front of their house when they are a co-equal branch of government? You get the good with the bad. When you choose to become a Supreme Court justice with a lifetime appointment, guess what, boo? Suck that shit up. You might get some protests.
Right. Well, Roland, the other part of it is the hypocrisy of saying that they deserve privacy when what they have done by reversing Roe versus Wade is strip away a woman's right to privacy.
Right.
So some folks are going to. I think, and we know it's about changing the subject for that reporter. It's like you just kept going on, and she answered the question. I wish you would have just told them to dismiss them a little sooner, because at the end of the day, that is the bottom line. It's like, People have a right to protest. If you're out in public, whatever elected, if you're a public official, people have a right to protest, and again, peacefully, and all of that she said. But at the end of the day, how dare you talk about privacy when you have ripped away women's right to privacy to make those decisions with her family or significant other or just with herself to be able to do what she needs to do to with her body. The God gave women the power to bring in life into this world and understand that all that goes with it. Black women die at a higher rate than any other demographic in this country because of the systemic racism innate in healthcare. And so the fact that they would sit up here and act like they need privacy, then cook at home.
Matt, it's real simple. They are public officials who are being paid by taxpayers. The public has every right, according to the First Amendment, to protest Supreme Court justices.
And not only do they have every right, the public has every right in at least 3 places. You have the freedom of speech, you have the freedom to assemble peaceably, and you also have the freedom to petition the government for a redress of grievances. And I would argue that's precisely what this is. If I'm letting you know how dissatisfied I am with your decisions, doesn't matter if you're sitting down eating, in a restaurant or you're out on the street, I have every legal right to tell you how I feel about you and about the bad decisions that you're making. And I think Melanie hit the nail on the head. Not only is there hypocrisy, we notice that conservatives particularly try to use the Constitution as both a bludgeon and a block, a shield. And you don't get to have it both ways. If you're going to follow the Constitution, then the Constitution imbues every single citizen in the United States of America to tell Brett Kavanaugh that he needs to kick rocks. If that's what they want to do, they get to do that.
Again, the clutching of pearls, Kelly, is hilarious, as if they don't have the right, they can't be protested. Yes, they can, and frankly, they should.
I just don't understand how, the hypocrisy of conservatives calling progressives and the like snowflakes only to complain about a peaceful protest outside of, albeit private residences, but public streets. It's laughable to me. And like Melanie said earlier, they essentially took away the right to privacy, and not just any right to privacy, the most intimate right of privacy being that of between a woman and her doctor. Like, no one is supposed to know about what goes on between that. Like, that's why we have HIPAA and all these laws to protect the right to privacy between a patient and a doctor. So for you to take that most intimate aspect of privacy away to complain about a protester in a public place and actually try to make the notion that a restaurant is somehow a more private setting than that of a doctor's office, I mean, it like I said, it's laughable. It is absolutely laughable, and he needs to get over it.
This is real clear, Michael, and that is, if you don't want to be protested, resign. Resign. Well, if you want privacy, if you truly want privacy, leave the public sector. Now you got privacy.
Well, that's one thing that could happen, but that goes for all 9 of the Supreme Court justices. But
yes, it does. It does.
I think the point that's being made, and I've heard arguments on both sides, but there was a 1950 statute, Title 18, Section 1507 of the U.S. Code. The law that states that it's illegal, quote, with the intent of influencing any judge, end quote, to picket or parade in or near a building or residence occupied or used by such judge, juror, witness, or court officer, or with such intent to resort to any other demonstration in or near any such building or residence. I get the First Amendment, the limitations on the First Amendment, like you can't yell fire in the crowded theater, you can't yell bomb on an airplane, but there's a U.S. Code as well that governs protesting outside of a Supreme Court justice's home, etc. So even though I loathe and abhor Fox News, even though I loathe and abhor Peter Ducey, But there is federal law. Now, maybe this has to be adjudicated. Maybe this has to be tested in court, et cetera. But the people who make the argument that it's illegal to protest outside of a Supreme Court justice's home, they're citing Title 18, Section 1507 of the U.S. Code.
No. But here's the problem. Here's the problem.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is this is a decision that has already been made, right? The genesis of that law is trying not to
intimidate the judges.
But if the judge has already made a decision, I don't think there's a prohibition against going and saying, you made a decision that I don't like. Now, I think your point is valid, Michael, as it relates to subsequent decisions that might come. But you'd have to be a pretty intrepid prosecutor to try to argue that I somehow influenced the decision I didn't know was coming down the pike. I think this is a different scenario.
But keep in mind, Matt, there were protests outside of the Supreme Court justice's home while we were waiting for the decision. After the draft from Justice Alito was released, there were protests outside of the Supreme Court justice's home, like Brett Kavanaugh, before the actual verdict came down. Okay?
No, not before it came down, before it was released. They could have look.
Before.
The bottom line. The bottom line is here. The whole notion you can't protest outside the home is utter bullshit. Okay, that's what it is. It's bullshit. You can protest. Now, if you want to say I don't think it's right, I don't think that's fine. But here's the whole point. This is just very simple. If you can protest outside of Biden's house, executive branch, that's fine. You can protest outside of Schumer's house. That's congressional. That's fine. The Supreme Court, they are public officials. Part of the problem here is that the Supreme Court has actually screwed themselves because they were always held in such high regard. Now we're seeing that you have no ethical standards there, where they frankly self-report. They can recuse themselves only by their own choosing. So what should happen? There should be an ethics guideline even for the Supreme Court. There are ethical guidelines for other federal judges. The way it's positioned, can do whatever the hell they want, and that's a problem. They are a co-equal branch of government and should be held accountable to ethics. And so I would hope Congress would have the guts to say, y'all don't do it yourself, fine, we'll pass it. But if you got ethics laws in the House and the Senate and the White House and for other federal judges, the Supreme Court should have them as well. Melanie Campbell, we appreciate you joining us to talk about this story, and we'll continue to follow. Thank you so very much. All right, folks, got to go to a break. When we come back, more on Roland Martin Unfiltered right here on the Black Star Network.
Up to Spike Lee. Of course, who didn't? I mean, he's a genius. But then also, I was this kid from Brooklyn, right? That felt like,
give me my damn respect.
I made this, this creative art, right, that people are responding to, and it would have been great if we had the opportunity to sit one-on-one.
Hold on one second.
Okay.
Spike.
What's up, baby?
So I'm in LA right now. I got a one-on-one series with my network, Black Star Network. And I'm interviewing Maddie Rich.
I appreciate that, bro. That's a big moment, man. That was like, man, that was good. Got me all choked up. That's good.
Well, I'm all about connecting.
Appreciate that, bro.
We're all impacted by the culture, whether we know it or not. From politics to music and entertainment, it's a huge part of our lives, and we're going to talk about it every day right here on The Culture with me, Faraji Muhammad, only on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Kim Burrell.
Hi, I'm Carl Payne.
Hey, everybody, this is Sherry Shepherd. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, y'all, jobs report dropped today, and guess what? Ooh, the folks at Fox News were really pissed off because they were sitting here getting ready to say, oh my goodness, we're going to be seeing a significant bad jobs report. Remember they said the exact same thing last month? And then, of course, when it actually came out, then they were a little embarrassed by what actually happened. In fact, I was cracking up laughing. At some of the videos that were posted by Media Matters. Y'all watch this one here.
100,000 more than what was expected. The problem is that Americans are actually dipping into their savings because of inflation. So they're running out of their savings. What do you do when you're at home and you run out of savings? You go back to work. So we might be in a recession, and that means that a lot of those 11 million job openings will dry up.
This is some recession we're having, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, you know, 372,000 jobs. I just have a hard time calling a recession with a 3.6% unemployment rate and 372,000 jobs, and average job growth over the course of the year of 456,000 every month.
100,000 more than...
So there's another video I had got to show y'all that I thought was really funny. And so, you know, the jobs report drops around 9:30 Eastern on the first Friday of each month. So check this one out. Again, this is all for shits and giggles.
The White House is bracing for what's expected to be an underwhelming June jobs report due out in a little over 2 hours. The data is projected to show the weakest job growth since April 2021.
2 hours later.
The new monthly jobs report beating expectations. The U.S. adding 372,000 jobs last month.
5 minutes later.
But we'll see if this is the last strong report that we see before evidence of a recession, Bill. Okay. Mixed story, in my view.
Are we dipping or dropping or going the other way? Maria, thank you so much. Great analysis.
The White House is bracing for what's expected to be an underwhelming...
I'm sorry. Are we dipping or dropping? Did y'all dumbasses see that? I'm just... Again, y'all, these people are absolutely laughable. I did have a chance to catch up with Dr. Cecilia Rouse. She is the head of President Joe Biden's White House Council of Economic Advisors. Here's our conversation.
Doc, let's get to it. Your haters were going, oh my God, we're going to see numbers drop. The recession is beginning. Mostly people at Fox News and Fox Business. But they were in for a rude awakening.
They were. So forecasters were expecting job growth in June to have been about 250,000 jobs. Instead, we had growth overall of 372,000 jobs. That actually masked that the private sector actually increased employment by 381,000. We saw a little bit of drop of employment in the federal government sector. So overall, it's a report that suggests that the labor market continues to be robust. We have had a historic recovery from the pandemic recession with this fastest growth in employment in several decades, fastest recovery in labor force participation from the last several recessions. We look at unemployment. The unemployment rate remained at 3.6%. We did see a slight tick down in labor force participation. That can be a little noisy from month to month, but we would like to see more people getting back into the labor force, whether they're looking for work or actually have a job. But overall, this report reflects that we are almost recovered from the pandemic. In fact, the private sector job growth puts us above the employment level before the pandemic started.
Let's talk about black unemployment rate. I saw Dr. William Spriggs stating that black labor force participation is on the uptick, and then again, in terms of what is it showing? He said, "quote Black labor force participation is highly sensitive to whether employers are actually hiring. So it was a strong sign when it was surging earlier this year and went above whites in June. However, it failed. That is a sign of frustration with employers in hiring."
Well, look, what we saw in terms of the labor market for Black Americans is from 6.2% to 5.8%. So that is a decrease in the number of, or the percentage of Blacks who were looking for a job and couldn't find one. At the same time, what Dr. Spriggs is referring to is the fact that there was a slight uptick in the percentage of people who decided that they were not participating in the labor market. He's right that for Black people, they can be very frustrating when they don't believe that there are jobs for which they'll be hired. But at the same time, I would flag that these numbers vary from month to month. And so at the Council of Economic Advisors, we like to look over periods of time and not get overly focused on the ups and downs from month to month. And if we look back over the pandemic, we know that the unemployment rate for Blacks has fallen dramatically, faster than in the prior several recessions. And we know that the employment rate has also increased dramatically. So this is still a strong report. Obviously, we want to be watching and paying close attention to how the labor market evolves for all Americans, but especially for our most vulnerable, including Black Americans. But this report reflects still a strong report as I read it.
Wages. What does this report tell us about wages?
So what this report said was that from month on month, we had an increase of about 0.3%. That is actually a slight deceleration from 0.4% in the month prior. So while there was increases in nominal wages, which is a good thing, it has decelerated, which may seem counterintuitive, but actually is a good thing as well for where we are given inflation. Because what we know we want to avoid is for wages to be increasing rapidly during a period of inflation, because it becomes, we can cause a spiral where when wages go up, it increases the cost for employers, which causes them to raise their prices, which causes more inflation. So this was welcome, and especially since we saw this moderation on average wages, but for our lowest paid sectors such as leisure and hospitality, transportation and warehouse, we actually saw very robust wage growth, which is reflective of the fact that they're still challenged in finding workers, and those are lowest paid workers. So it's welcome for them to be seeing wage increases of this magnitude.
And of course, again, when we see these stories come out for the last several months, you've got the doom and gloom of gas prices. But I saw a tweet yesterday said, "Hey, media, gas prices have dropped 22 cents in the past couple of weeks," and so it's amazing how the doom and gloom folks are talking about that. So, from an economic standpoint, what are we seeing when you talk about gas prices and inflation? Do you believe that we're seeing a situation where inflation potentially could be coming back, especially with the moves by the Federal Reserve?
Well, the Federal Reserve is focused on taming inflation, and the president very much respects that is the role of the Federal Reserve. He himself is doing what he can, whether that's by trying to lower prescription drug costs, lower childcare costs, by giving the Fed their independence, and by reducing the deficit, which is another way of ensuring that there's not too much fiscal stimulus, as we call it, too much. The federal government isn't trying to prop up demand inadvertently. The president wants to do so by raising taxes on the very wealthiest, and for corporations, not only is it fair, but it helps to raise revenues to make the kinds of investments in our economy that we know are so important. But what I would say is that inflation is a problem. The president recognizes that. I recognize that. Gas prices are part of that challenge, as are food prices. That is part of what we call headline inflation. If we take out energy and food, which tend to be volatile, I'll come back to that in a minute, they tend to be volatile. We look at core, which is what the Federal Reserve is really focused on. Core inflation has moderated over the last couple of months, which is a good sign. But really, gas prices, food prices, that's what affects everyday Americans, where we welcome the decrease in gas prices over the last couple of weeks. The price of gas and the price of oil is set on a global market. This is why the president is really focused on trying to ensure that we have adequate supply of oil. It's why he did the historic release from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve with his allies. It's why he welcomed the decision by OPEC Plus to increase production as well. So it's a welcome development. Oil and energy seep into the prices of other goods as well. And we know that we need for those prices to moderate in order to get inflation under control. But I will say this, that the war of Russia against Ukraine is creating a headwind here, and we would welcome resolution to that just as quickly as possible in order to get our oil markets, energy markets back on track.
And on that point, which is the last question here, I was talking to some folks from some African nations. And again, what people don't understand, what's happening in Ukraine with Russia has had an impact on the food supply, on grain, not just on the United States, but other countries as well, all across the globe. So, I'm constantly trying to explain to my audience, hey, y'all, we literally are living in a global economy. We have to stop acting as arrogant Americans, thinking somehow that what happens somewhere else does not have a ripple effect and does not affect us. It absolutely does.
Absolutely, absolutely. So the Ukraine and Russia provide a lot of the grains and wheat for the rest of the world. The United States, we're a net exporter of many grains and of wheat, so we're not as much directly affected by the war. But we are working with Ukrainians to try to get their grains and their wheat onto the market through the port of Odessa in particular, and finding other ways to get it out so that we can get it to those who really do depend on exports from the Ukraine, from Russia, in order to feed their countries. It's a problem that we are focused on. It's a problem the World Bank and IMF are focused on, and many other aid organizations, because as you just pointed out, we are a global economy. There's a lot of trading that happens, and we need to ensure that, in particular, we don't, we ensure the well-being of individuals around the world.
All right, then. Well, Dr. Rouse, always glad to have you on Roland Martin Unfiltered, breaking these economic numbers down for us. And so we'll continue to watch it. And again, hopefully more of our folks will be participating. We'll be seeing higher wages and an improving economy, which benefits all of us.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
But it is pretty funny, Matt, to watch the folks at Fox News be like, damn, 372,000 jobs added.
It couldn't be more obvious that, it's not about reporting the news. Clearly, it's about, going along with the narrative. And I would think their editors would be smarter than vacillating that quickly. But I wanted to commend yours because I think the SpongeBob additives were perfect. I mean, it really gave me a good laugh on top of the ridiculousness of what we saw from those reporters. But they don't even try to hide it. I mean, they just keep it real that obviously they're pandering to that base they're pandering to. So, it is what it is, but I don't even know what to add beyond that.
I just laugh at them every single time, Michael.
Roland,
they upset.
Roland, they're rooting against America. But what do you expect from the coup plotting, the white nationalists, domestic terrorist sympathizers at Fox News, the replacement theory propagators like Tucker Carlson? What do you expect from them? When you look at the American Rescue Plan, no Republican in the House or the Senate voted for the American Rescue Plan to rescue America during the COVID-19 pandemic. So now you have them once again rooting against America. This should be very clear that all those, and these are the same people who have the trader-in-chief, Benedict Donald, on Fox News to continue to propagate the big lie. So this should be very clear for African Americans and everybody else watching. This should be very clear. These domestic terrorist sympathizers, these coup plotters, have to be voted out of office and kept out of power, and they're rooting against our own interests. And they will continue to do this until we properly deal with it.
I don't like none of these MAGA people, Kelly. Not one of them. Yes, they're all deplorables.
I mean, there's not much to like, especially when they ascribe to lies as though it were the truth. I mean, this is the same group of people who brought out Kellyanne Conway and alternative facts. I will never forget that because that was the dumbest thing I had ever seen on national television, but I digress. I don't expect anything less from news outlets that have actively spread the lie that is Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And I expect nothing less for them to be upset at the truth because it doesn't align with what they are lying about. So, like Matt said, the SpongeBob references made me snort off air because it was very apropos. And there's nothing like being here on a Friday evening and seeing Fox News reporters with egg on their face because they were wrong and they don't know how to clean the egg off.
Again, I love to laugh at them. All right, y'all, got to go to a break. We come back, more news. Wisconsin Supreme Court gets rid of ballot drop boxes. Yeah, Republicans wanted that to happen. Also, black woman's going to be president of the the Las Vegas Raiders. Also, we got some other news. And we'll talk to a sister who is the showrunner of a show on Netflix, Black Folks Chasing Down Monsters. You mean tell me we ain't the ones who died in the first 5 minutes? That's new. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Download the app, y'all. Available on all platforms. Even Felicia got a kick out of that one. Y'all, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. You can also support us in what we do. Of course, your dollars make it possible for us to travel all across this country. See your check and money orders too. P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. Cash App, $RM Unfiltered. PayPal's R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo's RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Carl Payne pretended to be Roland Martin. Holla!
You are watching Roland Martin, and I'm on his show today, and it's what? Huh? You should have some cue cards.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's your boy Jacob Lattimore, and you're now watching Roland Martin right now.
The Tulsa, Oklahoma Police Department believes Indigo Lucky's parents kidnapped her on May 6th of this year and could be in California. The 2-year-old is 2 feet 6 inches tall, weighs 35 pounds, with brown hair and brown eyes. Anyone with information about Indigo Lucky should call the Tulsa Police Department at 918-596-9222. All right, y'all. I was telling y'all about this new show on Netflix where black folks, that's right, chasing down monsters. It's called First Kill. Check out this trailer for the supernatural teen drama.
I'm from a lineage thousands of years old of the best monster hunters to ever walk the earth.
Even on good days, I feel like I still don't fit in. Like everyone else has it all figured out. Oh yeah, that. I haven't told anyone, of course.
You are a legacy vampire. Made vampires would love to see their reflection in a mirror.
We're hunters.
More importantly, you're my daughter. Which is why we've decided you're ready for your first kill. Here's to killing monsters. Your body is changing.
Yeah, my body.
But very soon, you are going to have to make your first kill.
Hi. It's Juliet, right?
Yeah, you're Calliope?
Well, Cal's good.
Who are you, Calliope? Where'd you come from?
Addicted to loving you. How does it feel?
You're nothing like the monsters I grew up hating.
I just want to live my life. Can't be together. It won't work. I've forbidden you from seeing her.
We're not supposed to be.
I know my feelings for you are real.
Juliet and every legacy in Savannah dies tonight.
Run now!
I'll kill for you. We won't have a problem. We will always have a problem.
I had to choose between you and my family. I choose my family. What about us? Faced everyone, monster and human, who tried to come between us. We got this.
I'll kill for you.
All right, joining us right now is Felicia Henderson. Felicia, glad to have you on the show. What's happening?
Not much. It's so good to see you. I can always count on you, my Divine Nine brother, to represent.
Come on now, you know I'm always do that, and so it got to do that. So tell me about this show, because normally in these old scary ass shows, black people we dead, and the credits ain't even finished rolling.
You know it. You know it. It's the biggest reason that I was drawn to this, actually, is, I read the script. I didn't have time to read the script. My manager kept saying, will you please read it? I promise you it's different. And I got to it. I got halfway through it, and I called him right away. I was like, the monster hunters are black? And it's a whole family. It's not just that one character who's the sidekick. So to have a black family at the center of this, I was in.
So, okay, so this is a lot different than what you've normally done.
You know what? Yes and no. I will tell you, I'm a comic book nerd from childhood. And I wrote comic books for DC Comics for a while. I wrote Teen Titans and Static Shock. And so I've been doing that. I don't talk about it a lot. It's sort of my side for fun gig. And, I wrote on The Punisher for Netflix. And I'm also right now adapting another Demon Hunters show. And in some ways, Roland, hear me out, it's sort of the child of something like Soul Food, that had a black family at the center. But it was time to move such a black family to the center of a genre show. It's, one of the few places in that supernatural where we are still not normalized. Our presence, anyway, in such shows is still not normalized. So for me, getting an opportunity to tell a story about a black family in genre is my sweet spot.
Okay, let's get some questions here. I'm trying to see. Let's see who is the geekiest out of the three panelists today. That's probably you, Matt.
I knew you was coming right here, Roland. I knew it. Let me first thank you for giving us Virgil Hawkins, the dopest superhero Static Shock of all time. So thank you for your work on that.
Told y'all. You know it.
Hey, I love Static Shock.
I'm friends for life. I already feel that. We're going to be friends for life.
I appreciate that. But my question for you is, did y'all find any difficulty in selling Netflix on, taking a new direction, particularly as you mentioned, putting a black family at the center of the genre show? Sometimes we see backlash in media and on social media when you have, particularly in the superhero genre, people responding adversely, right? Saying either the character shouldn't be black or black voices shouldn't be centered. So what, if any, pushback did y'all have in that respect when it was being pitched to Netflix?
That's a good question. And, the good and the bad of it is it comes from a short story that was written by a New York Times bestselling author. So Victoria Schwab. So that had happened, and she's so successful in that space that it was hard to deny her, and that Netflix wanted to be in business with her. So that helped quite a bit. So that it was baked in, you know what I mean? By the time it got to TV, it was adapting something that existed by a writer who's very successful. So that made it not so. And then you're also just in a space where outlets are trying to be more inclusive, are trying to do things, particularly at some place like Netflix, that reflects the way the world looks.
Let's go to, Michael, we know you're the second biggest geek on this panel.
This is my kind of panel, yay!
Like to pick on me because I'm a Sigma. How you doing, Sister Felicia?
I'm good. Well, this Delta sister loves her Sigma brothers.
and we love the Deltas as well. So first of all, I got to tell you, Showtime, Soul Food is one of my all-time favorite shows. Okay, so I love soul food. I got rid of Showtime after they canceled. Okay,
Me too.
Yeah, explain to people, because this is the first I've heard of this show when I got the information for today's rundown of what we're going to talk about. Explain to people who have not seen this show before why they should tune in, especially African Americans, why they should tune into this show. And I have to get Netflix back again to watch it, so I guess I'll get Netflix also again. But explain to people
You
why
use somebody's password.
No, I used to work for Netflix, Roland, so I don't do that. But anyway,
that's a whole damn well you sharing.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. I had to get 2 accounts because there were so many folks, trying to share. I have now 1 account just for folks to share.
Damn, that's a damn shame.
First Kill basically, particularly like you said, why Black folks should tune in. One is the obvious thing we just talked about, is that at the center of this show is a Black family. It also is an opportunity to be subversive, in that monsters versus monster hunters stand in for all kinds of intolerance and racism and things that we have experienced, so that when you hear, the white family say when Juliet brings Calliope home, why would you bring that girl in my house? It's still very, very relatable, even though we may not be vampires and vampire hunters. We've heard that line because of what we look like or what we are. It is first, my job is to entertain. So first and foremost, it's entertaining, but it is very much epic in the terms of it's a Romeo and Juliet kind of story with a Juliet and a Juliet at the center of it, but it's the Montagues and the Capulets. And it's also an opportunity to see a strong Black woman, at the her family. It's a matriarchy, but to see this strong relationship where you have the Black man, he loves his strong woman. He's not intimidated by her. There's so much love in that family, but and that they are the elite of the elite monster hunters. And so for me, as a viewer, getting to see us in all of that is worth watching.
Thank you.
All right, Kelly, you a geek too. Go ahead.
Yes, I'm a geek, but I'm a geek for several reasons.
That.
Yes, and they took all my thank yous, because between Static Shock, Gossip Girl, and The Quad, I'm just over here like, just.
Oh, I appreciate you so much for all of those shout outs. I appreciate you so much.
Yes, I want to be your friend. But nevertheless, this cast.
Girl,
alone,
ask your question. You get like Michael.
What does that mean?
This cast the cast is phenomenal. I personally wasn't going to watch it, not because of any backlash, but I am a punk when it comes to anything remotely horror.
Oh,
but
scary
now,
ass. Oh, scary ass.
Yes, but I'm gonna watch it tonight, promise. If you were part of, I don't know whether you were part of the curating of the cast, but if you were, what was that like in finding these cast members? Because between the reviews that I've read and just the trailer alone, it seems perfect. Like the white mother who was the matriarch of the vampire family, she was in Gossip Girl. So I was like, maybe you guys knew each other from that point and things like that. Like, how was it curating the cast? What's it like to possibly work with people that you've already worked with? What's the culture like on set? And what's your favorite episode thus far?
That's 4 damn questions, Kelly.
That's okay. I'm gonna knock them out, Kelly. I got you. Okay? I got you. I'm gonna knock them all out. First of all, as a showrunner, head writer, absolutely, I'm involved in casting, and probably in the last word on it. We have 5 executive producers total, so everyone gets a voice. But as the showrunner, you get the final word. Obviously, Netflix has the final word because they're paying for it. But as the showrunner, you get the final word. I have to give a shout out, though, to my casting director, Leah Daniels, who brought most of those amazing people to me. Jason Moore, who plays the Black dad, Jack, I worked with him on The Punisher. So when I literally was reading this script and thinking about that character, I'm like, it's Jason. And then Elizabeth Mitchell, who you just mentioned, she was on Lost, and I'm a huge Lost fan. So when her manager called my manager to say Elizabeth wants to play Margot Fairmont, the matriarch of the vampire family, I'm like, it's done. But every other character that you see is a result of Leah Daniels, who's just genius. You know, she cast Empire, and there's just a swagger about the way she casts. And and Alban Weiss, who plays Talia, the Black mother, she's in Hamilton, and I love theater actors because they always know their lines. They always come to work. But it was, and we were, casting during COVID, so we had to do it on Zoom.
Wow.
We couldn't even, and so it was like you and me right now, on screen, and the actors had to turn and look and, and look like they were together. So that really showed you, do they have chemistry? If they could have chemistry on Zoom, then you knew they were going to have chemistry in real life. And in terms of working behind the scenes, this is truly the most grateful, happy, accommodating, hardworking cast I have ever worked with. They very much feel like family. We have a text chain that we're always texting each other every week. Even though we finished shooting in August of last year, but and we were very close because we started shooting COVID pre-vaccines for all. So we were bonded, and we made a pact that no one's going to do anything dumb. We go to work, and we go home, and we come to work so that we could keep each other safe, and that no one got COVID, and then the show would have to shut down. So it just made us all very close. And again, when it was tough, when it was hard, when the line producer was suggesting it's time to shut down, this is too hard, I kept going because this cast was so incredible and working so hard.
All right, gotta ask you this here after Kelly's 18 questions. She did mention the quads. So it's with HBCUs are hot now. People are talking about them. So what is the possibility of you reviving the quad?
Oh, that's a good question. And do you ask that because there was a certain character on there named Roland Martin who might want to come back?
I'm just saying. Last time, if I recall, that was the highest rated episode that year. I'm just saying.
He loves that, you guys. The episode that Roland came and killed was our highest rated episode of the season. And he did do
I want to be on it too, though.
No, you can't come.
Dude.
No.
Yes, I can.
Hey, I will disconnect all three of y'all. Nope.
I'll tell you though, Roland, when BET first canceled the show, I had conversations with them about getting the show back because Netflix was interested in the show at that time. And they would not give it to me. They're like, well, we're going to be starting a streaming service and we don't know. First they said they'd entertain it. Then they kicked me to the curb and kept it to, just show old episodes. But it's one of the things I am the most proud of. And the work that we were out there first, we probably would have had a better chance had it been, post having a VP who went to Howard, right? But we were a little bit ahead of our time. But it is some of the work that I am the most proud of. And I would gladly create another show set at an HBCU because the image is so important.
So the only way the quad comes back, BET would have to release it and give approval.
That's absolutely right.
Oh, okay. So we just need to go ahead and just start blowing them up and say, release the damn quad to Felicia so she can go ahead and bring it back.
Let's do this.
Or you can just put me on any of the shows that you're working on right now. That's perfect.
That's possible too, Kelly. We can roll like that.
I mean, I legit want your email. This can actually work.
Kelly.
Roland, can I make a quick comment about soul food?
No, you can't. No, you can't. No, you can't. Kelly trying to get email, trying to get on the show. Michael, you trying to talk about soul food. Matt over there geeking out on characters. Lord have mercy.
Economic empowerment. That's what I wanted to talk about.
No.
Okay.
Lord have mercy. See, y'all love asking. I give y'all one question, and y'all come back with like 17 questions. Lord
we have to make the most of the moment, Roland.
No, your moment's over.
Roland, you always want economic empowerment for black people.
Right. Got it. Your moment's over. That's it. Felicia, where do people watch?
Please watch First Kill. on Netflix. It's streaming now, and it's important. If you start it, you will love it, and you're going to think you know how it ends, but you don't. And I wrote the season finale, so you want to see it. So if you start it, watch it to the end. That's what Netflix cares about, how many people finished the show. That's what they really look at. So keep watching if you're watching. If you haven't watched it, hopefully, Kelly, I'm looking forward to you watching it because you're a little bit scary. Watch when you watch it. You'll be like, oh, that was so bad.
Whole scary ass.
For the characters, Kelly. It's worth it for the characters.
Whole scary ass. And all right, you tell Netflix that you got on this show because I put you on. I keep telling Netflix and Hulu and the rest of these people they should be advertising more with black-owned media. They keep sending me press releases and I don't put them people on. So I put you on because of you, not
and
Netflix.
I will be an ambassador for you. It will be my pleasure.
All right, Sade Jenkins, don't get mad at me, but you know how I feel. You know I don't play that. All right, Felicia. I appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Nice to meet the team.
All right. Thanks a bunch. I appreciate it. All right, folks, real quick, going to a break. We're going to come back. I'm going to zoom through some headlines and going to get quick reaction from our panel. And then we're going to have our Essence Fest special. Man, we got some awesome stuff, folks. Sherry Shepherd talks about her new daily daytime talk show. John Murray's her EP. We got Robin B talking about how do you get yourself healthy after you ate all that damn food in New Orleans. From Essence, and we got some other fabulous stuff to show you as well, folks. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered right here on the Black Star Network. Back in a moment.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and on the next Get Wealthy, what do the ultra wealthy know that most of us don't? Well, the truth is that there is financial exclusion, and unfortunately, far too many Black folks haven't had access to this knowledge, and that's exactly what we're going to talk about on our next Get Wealthy with Melinda Hightower, a banker who's doing something to share exactly what you need to do to make it into the high net worth status.
They weren't just saving just to save, they were saving for a purpose.
That's right here on Get Wealthy with me, America's Wealth Coach, only on Black Star Network.
We're all impacted by the culture, whether we know it or not. From politics to music and entertainment, it's a huge part of our lives, and we're going to talk about it every day right here on The Culture with me, Faraji Muhammad, only on the Black Star Network.
Hey, yo, Peace World, what's going on? It's the Love King of R&B, Raheem Devon.
Hey, I'm Cupid, the maker of the Cupid Shuffle and the Wham Dance.
What's going on? This is Tobias Trevelyan, and if you're ready, you are listening to and you are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, the Wisconsin Supreme Court bans unmanned ballot drop-off boxes. The ruling comes as many new voter restriction laws arise after the false accusations of voter fraud in the 2020 presidential election. This ruling is expected to impact the 2024 election significantly and make Wisconsin a battleground state. Wisconsin's Democratic Chair Ben Wickler said this is about the state's highest court ruling. He said, no matter their politics, those who believe in democracy strive to ensure that every eligible voter can cast a ballot. With its ruling today, the Wisconsin Supreme Court is making it more difficult to vote. It's a slap in the face of democracy itself. Where's the graphic, y'all? Come on. We know this decision will impact people with disabilities, seniors, people living in rural communities, people with limited means, few transportation options, and inflexible work schedules who are disproportionately young people and people of color. Ballot boxes can only be placed in election offices, and no one other than the voter can return a ballot in person. However, ballots may be mailed in. We know it's all bullshit, Matt. They just pissed off with the turnout, and then they want to shrink the electorate as much as they can.
More of the same, try to keep the people away from their voice, which is the ballot box. This doesn't surprise me, and it's disgusting.
Indeed, indeed. All right, y'all. The University of Central Florida's English department suspends its anti-racism statement for violating Governor Ron DeSantis' Stop Woke Act. The department made the statement in 2021 in solidarity with the Black Lives Matter movement, with initiatives to represent and support writers and students of color. DeSantis signed the Stop Woke Act into law to ban schools and businesses from, as he put it, teaching any group is a, quote, person by his or her race, color, national origin, or sex is inherently racist, sexist, or oppressive, whether consciously or unconsciously, and it's a piece of crap. The law was enacted on July 1st. Your reaction, Michael?
Well, Florida needs to be desanitized, Roland. And this is an example, once again, of the culture wars being waged by the GOP. We know Ron DeSantis wants to run for president. He's up for re-election November 2022 for governor. And this is an example of how elections have consequences. This was something good that the department did. And you have white supremacists like Ron DeSantis, who has a problem with it. So he must be defeated at the ballot box.
Absolutely. Lisa Holder White is the first black woman justice on the Illinois Supreme Court. White, sworn in Thursday, will replace Justice Rita Garman, the state's longest-serving Supreme Court justice. White's appointment comes just a week after Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson was the first black woman appointed to the United States Supreme Court. Before being appointed to Illinois Supreme Court, White became the first black judge in the 6th Judicial Circuit in 2001. She was also the first black justice in the Illinois Appellate Court, the 4th District, in 2013. Holder White will hold the seat until December 2024. She plans to then run for a 10-year term during the November election. Kelly.
I think it's fantastic. And you know, everyone knows this on this show, but we absolutely need more black women judges on the bench because you get that perspective of really the real world, and they are able to interpret the law in that context. So congratulations to her. I'm sure she's going to be absolutely phenomenal. And I've no doubt that there are going to be a lot more fairer rulings on the bench from now on, so long as she's on the bench.
All right, folks, and speaking of first, Sandra Douglas Morgan becomes the first black female president of an NFL franchise. Morgan will serve as the Las Vegas Raiders' newest team president. Morgan has spent 20 years as a practicing attorney in Las Vegas and recently served as chairwoman of the Nevada Gaming Control Board and North Las Vegas city attorney. In a news conference today, Morgan says she's used to being the first in many positions in her life.
You know, I have been the first in other positions that I've held, whether it be city attorney or the gaming control board. I definitely never want to be the last, and I want to get to a point, obviously, where there is no more firsts. But as I kind of mentioned in my comments, you know, the impact that this has is not lost on me. If I definitely would tip my hat to all of the prior women that were leaders and visionaries, and if I could be an inspiration or help or open doors for any other woman and girl out there, then that's an incredible accomplishment for me. So the importance and effect of it is not lost on me. And I know that sports is a male-dominated industry, just as gaming was. And, you know, we need to continue to break down these barriers. So I'm happy to be here, and again, thankful for the opportunity.
All right. Of course, Jason Wright is the first black team president. Of course, he leads the Washington Commanders. Matt, Michael, Kelly, I appreciate y'all joining us. Thank you so very much on this show. Certainly enjoyed it. And I'll see you three geeks next week.
Thanks, Roland.
All right. Thanks a bunch.